Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming to you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. Today is Monday, Fun Day, Gun Day, and we get to talk about all the fun that has taken place over this past weekend. And trust me, folks, I got to tell you, it was really, really hard to decide exactly what we were going to talk about today. I mean, we got whistleblowers. We got a new whistleblower. One of Hunter Biden's best friends is supposed to be testifying today, or was supposed to be testifying today. But guess what? That didn't make the cut. We've got the new Barbie movie, which is out, which is kind of interesting because Ben Shapiro, who did a 43-minute review on it. Now, for a conservative to do a 43-minute review on a Barbie movie, you know there had to be some stuff about it. And it was actually quite an interesting review. I had a chance to listen to it. Definitely made me not want to watch the movie, but then again, I may have to actually watch it because with all the backlash that he's been getting, one has to wonder, why are they so mad that, let's see, a almost 40-year-old man didn't like a movie about Barbie? But for some reason, the left has gone absolutely wild about his commentary on it. And guess what? We're not going to talk about that. That did not make the cut today either. That's how much we've got going on in the news. So it's going to be a good time. We're going to have a really good time. Unfortunately, Mike had a last-minute flight to New York. That's right, to New York City. Get a rope. Anyway, so unfortunately, he's not able to join us today. But hey, you've got me. I've got you. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have plenty of comments. I will be paying attention to your chat, to whatever you might have to say or contemplate or add on to the conversation. All you got to do is comment however you are watching, if you are watching the program live. I know we run a few seconds behind over there on OpsLens Facebook, so I'll be checking that as well. So we'll be able to get your comments. In any case, before we get going, we got to do our usual thing. That's right. You guys know exactly what that is. We've got to make sure to give a shout out to our sponsors. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with Hitman Industries. If you're looking to do a rebuild, if you need a barrel, whether it's a rifle length or a pistol length barrel, Hitman Industries is the place to go. Just go to hitmanindustries.net and get your barrel today. I mean, chances are if you've recently purchased an AR, you've already got one of their barrels. But, hey, can't have too many. Now, King. Also, want to remind you, they've got Glock barrels coming out soon, so check them out at hitmanindustries.net. Then you've got the California Republican Assembly, California's largest and fastest growing conservative grassroots organization. Folks, let me tell you something. The Ronald Reagan referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party, or as I like to call them, the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California. They're working to help elect conservatives from school board all the way up to President of the United States. So check them out at cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. Then we've got Hog Holsters. If you're looking for the best in concealed carry or tactical holsters, they've got it. If you're looking for inside the waistband, outside the waistband holsters, trust me, they've got it. Whatever hookup, whatever format, however your handgun is set up, trust me, they've got a setup for you. No matter what your optical, no matter what your light, I'll bet you they've got a setup for you. Just go to hogholsters.com and make sure you use the discount code The Rundown. That's all caps, no spaces, just kind of like it is right up there. All caps, no spaces, one word, and get your discount today at hogholsters.com. And then if you're looking for any sort of outdoor gear, whether it's cold weather or hot weather, whether it's a hat, helmet, whether it's a backpack, whether you're looking for boots, sunglasses, they've got it at uscombatgear.com. It's veteran-owned and operated, quality products, great prices, fast shipping, and excellent customer service. Check them out today at uscombatgear.com. All right, we're going to go ahead and start with this first one. And I got to tell you, and I know sometimes you guys probably wonder, okay, why is Craig? I mean, why are we concerned? I mean, let's be honest. I get it. Yes, Biden is failing black males. But guess what? He's failing all males. All right? I get that. I 100% agree with you on that one. He is definitely failing all males. But keep in mind, we're talking about the group of people, we're talking about African Americans in particular, who vote something like 90 to 95% Democrat, who overwhelmingly voted for for Donald Trump. I mean, for Joe Biden in the last presidential election. Now, the interesting thing though is that Donald Trump has been more successful in getting African Americans to vote for him than just about any other presidential candidate. In fact, black males in particular. And now there's even more reason. Because once again, according to the information and the data that's out there, Biden is failing them miserably. Now, first of all, I will be the first to admit this is an opinion piece that's put out there by Larry Elder. You all know Larry Elder. He's the former talk show host down there from Los Angeles. He is also a candidate for president of the United States. But he wanted to put out this op-ed piece because he wanted to basically... His goal right here, I think, is to dig into one of the largest or at least most consistent constituencies of the Democratic Party and of Joe Biden. And I'll read just a little bit of his piece here. It says, starting July 24, the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys will host its latest summit in Washington, D.C., sharing a status report on the progress of black males in America or lack thereof. I will be there myself, joining members of Congress and other U.S. policymakers to assess the current state of race relations. Those expecting good news will be kept waiting. In President Joe Biden's America, the status quo for black males is untenable. Across the country, black men and boys are falling behind because their politicians are failing them. From portraying black males as victims to ignoring the root causes of their struggles, Democrats, like Biden, are only turning their backs on the very people they claim to support. Here's a progress report for you. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, a black male aged 10 to 43 is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a white man in the same demographic. Over Father's Day weekend last month, 75 people were shot in Chicago, Illinois, 13 of them fatally in a single weekend. Chicago and other Democrat-run cities have essentially turned into war zones. New research shows that 38% of the people in prison are black, despite making up barely 14% of the U.S. population. The problem isn't systemic racism, as Democrats so quickly claim. After all, there are significantly more white Americans in prison. The problem is fatherlessness, and it has been for decades. I won't read much more of it. I won't read any more of it to you, but I guess what I wanted you to see here is that whether it's academically, whether it's numbers in prison, whether it's chances of being either committing a homicide, a violent crime, or being the victim of a violent crime, African-American males under Democrats are failing worse. And when I say fail under Democrats, I'm not just talking about Joe Biden. I'm talking about in blue cities. When you go into cities that are run by Democrats, where you have district attorneys who are refusing to enforce the law, the people who are both choosing to commit crimes are disproportionately African-American males, but those who are being victimized are disproportionately African-American males. Those who are not getting quality education under school boards that prefer critical race theory and queer theory and queer gender theory and, all of these books like Gender Queerness and all of that. In those schools, once again, black males are failing worse than anyone. And all of this under a Biden administration. All of this under Democrats. But when you go in areas where Republicans tend to be running things, they tend to be doing better. Crime tends to be lower. It may still be disproportionate between blacks and whites, but at least it's doing better for everybody in general. It's a very frustrating thing, right? When we refuse to look at root causes. And that's really what I think the main primary issue with most Democrats, in particular Joe Biden, are. Joe Biden wants to say it's systemic racism. I agree with Larry Elder. I believe the biggest issue is fatherlessness. And when I say that, I mean this. I mean that every study that has ever been done will tell you that the best environment in which to have and raise children is a mother and a father together in an intact married household. Period. There has never been a study that has said anything else other than that is the best. Children who grow up in in that environment had the greatest possibility or the best chance of a good outcome. Now, I'm not saying that if you're a single parent, you can't raise your kids right and they can't do well in life. I'm not even going to tell you that if you have, two parents of the same gender that can't happen. But once again, the odds tell you that if a mother and a father who are married are in the same household, does much better. First of all, just economically. Let's be real. If you have two people working, guess what? That's two incomes. That means more money, more resources. If you have a situation where only one parent has to work, where one parent earns enough money and the other can be a stay-at-home parent, guess what? Not only do you have a little bit more money, or even the same amount of money, but now you've got direct potential parental guidance. You've got someone whose number one job it is to take care of the house, to take care of the family. When I say to take care of the home, not the house, to take care of the home, meaning to be there to take care of the family and to monitor things and make sure things are going well. And in every single case, no matter what the statistic, kids growing up in that environment have a much better chance. Well, guess what? 70% of black children in America do not grow up in that household, in that environment. They do not have an intact mother and father in the home. And then we wonder why, right? And once again, I dare you to bring up a study. I dare anybody. Look, all you got to do is drop it right there in the comments. If you have a study that says anything different, I am more than willing to check it out. Because, I'm always ready and willing to admit if I'm wrong, but I'm willing to bet in this particular case, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe y'all think I am, but I don't see any comments. So I'm going to assume that you happen to agree with me on this. And by the way, you happen to agree with Larry Elder on this. And by the way, that's when they start talking about root causes. That's the number one thing that we need to be looking at. Once again, is dealing with those root causes. And yes, Mark, I do agree with you. I do believe he is a traitor, and I think that the more we hear about the investigations of the influence peddling of the Biden crime family, I think the more that is going to be bore out. He is a traitor and a liar, who's been, by the way, trading on his name for decades. I mean, isn't it funny though? Think about this: him, his son, his brother, and apparently like several other of the Biden family members have been trading on the Biden name and have basically become millionaires, multimillionaires, all because they have the last name Biden. And yet Hunter's daughter, the seventh grandchild, the one that Joe Biden refuses to acknowledge. Yeah, one of the main stipulations that they had in that whole settlement, the whole custody settlement, was that she doesn't get to use the Biden name. Guess they don't want her to be independently wealthy. Oh well, I guess that's kind of how that works these days. Anyway, moving on to our next story. Battle over the Rio Grande. And this is an interesting one. So you may have heard that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, decided to put some buoys in the water. And he did so in an attempt to try and discourage people from entering the country illegally. So, see, because you have governors like Gavin Newsom in California, what's her name? Holcomb, or whatever her name is, over there in New York, because you have these people who are creating these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states who are providing incentives for people to come into the country illegally, they're coming in through places like Mexico. Places like Texas. And Texas is saying, no, we got to try and discourage people, because what's happening is when they first get here, all of the burden is being placed on once again, border states like Texas. And so they put these buoys in the water in order to discourage people from attempting to cross into the United States. And the federal government has ordered him to remove them, or they're going to sue him. It says here, Texas governor defies federal order to remove anti-migrant buoys from the river. They are not anti-migrant buoys. They are not. They are there to keep people who want to illegally enter our country. Unless you mean, by definition now, Now definition means people who are illegally entering our country. So anyone who is illegally entering our country is a migrant. So do we then call those who come across legally legal migrants or legal immigrants? So we have legal immigrants and then we have migrants who are illegal, right? Is that how it works now? I don't know. I'm trying. Someone check the PC police and let me know. All right. So it says here, Republican governor of Texas refused to comply with federal instructions to remove floating barriers installed in the Rio Grande as a way to stop illegal immigrants from reaching U.S. soil. Texas will fully utilize its constitutional authority to deal with the crisis you have caused, Greg Abbott wrote to Joe Biden in a letter reported by CNN and other outlets on Monday. Texas will see you in court, Mr. President. You know, I got to tell you, I am really starting to like me some Greg Abbott. And I'll tell you what, maybe it took, and I think we owe Colonel Allen West a debt of gratitude, because I really do believe that his candidacy helped Greg Abbott find his spine. Because, God, that's being that he's in a wheelchair because he injured his back is probably was not very politically correct, and I apologize. But you know what I mean. I mean, the thing is he is now standing up for the people of Texas, and because they are literally the tip of the spear for this battle there at the southern border, he's standing up for the rest of America. And I just want to say hats off. Keep up the good work. And it's important that you fight. When the federal government refuses to do its job, refuses to enforce federal law, it's up to those of us who recognize that, law needs to be enforced. All right. It's up to then the government of Texas to step up. And that's exactly what it is that they're doing. Now, you'll hear in mainstream media the number of migrants illegally entering the country has gone way, way down. Oh my God, look, Joe Biden is doing such a great job. No. What's happened is they're just letting them in. In other words, they're changing how they're able to come in, so they're just walking across the border. It's even worse because at least before, when there were these long, huge lines, at least they were doing something to try and identify who some of these folks were. Now they're just saying, "Come on in." No need to. Don't bother taking out your ID. Just come on in. Yeah, no, we'll here, take this piece of paper and come to court. We'll let you know when to come to court. No, you don't need to let us know where you're going to be. You don't need to let us know because, we're going to send you a notice. But, I'm sure it'll find you wherever you might possibly wind up. I mean, folks, this is what we're dealing with right here. This is what is going on right now at our southern border. And they are, quite frankly, flat out lying to us about it. Plain and simple. And thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for agreeing. And I don't know what else to do except to continue to point it out, folks. And the reason why I think it's important for us to do this, and I know to a certain degree I'm preaching to the choir, but it's important for us, understand this, it's important for us to go out to the highways and the hedges and compel them to come in, to talk to people outside of those that we would normally talk to let them know about this stuff, because they don't know. I mean, common sense. See, here's the thing. They're going to point it to, and all they're going to look at when they look at this, when the mainstream media, they're going to say, people are going to drown. If you are doing everything you can to warn people, by the way, let me just be real. With no buoys like that in the Rio Grande, people are drowning. People are dying in deserts. They're dying of thirst and dehydration. Right? There are still, even without those buoys, there are children who are being raped and sold into sexual slavery. Right? There are women who are being raped. There's still tons of fentanyl. Even without those buoys, there's tons of fentanyl that is coming into this country and killing unsuspecting people. All of that is happening. They're not talking about it. It's kind of funny how, it's really funny how you can have Chuck Schumer talk about, we know where the fentanyl is coming from. It's coming from China. But you want to ignore that it's coming from China through our southern border, being carried in by Well, according to the information we have, Honduran drug mules. Um, so shouldn't we be doing something at our southern border to keep those folks from bringing the fentanyl in? To keep those people from trafficking the young children in so that they can be used as sex slaves or, as chattel or work? I mean, come on, right? One makes sense. We ought to discourage that. But anyway, some folks don't think so. Some folks do. I'm glad that I am up. I'm glad that my audience, our audience, is a group of people who actually do. All right. NYC, fewer permits after Bruen. Now, this was an interesting one. So the Supreme Court puts out an opinion that basically says, yeah, you're supposed to be issuing more permits. In other words, you don't get to just not issue permits, right? You don't get to just take away people's fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Well, NYPD is basically saying, okay, well, we're not going to do anything. This is an article that's actually at the Jewish Voice, and it says NYPD granting fewer gun permits after Supreme Court rule it had to grant more, data shows. Oh, gee, what does that mean? Let me close these over here. Here we go. Okay. The NYPD approved fewer new licenses to people requesting permits to carry or keep firearms in their homes or businesses in 2022 than the year prior, data obtained by the city shows. Despite the 2022 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that found a key provision of the state's longstanding gun control law violated the Second Amendment right to bear arms. In 2021, the NYPD, which vets firearm permits, received 4,663 applications and approved 2,591 of them, about 56%, all under the stricter proper cause standard the Supreme Court struck down last year. The standard required gun owners in New York to show proper cause in order to receive a permit to carry a weapon. But the court said licenses should be granted by default unless there was a specific reason to deny an applicant. In 2022, the NYPD saw an increased number of applications, 7,260, but approved just 1,550, or 21%. Even though applications filed in the second half of the year no longer had to meet the proper cause standard, where applications had to make an affirmative case for why they needed a license. In 6 months after the court's ruling, New York State Rifle versus Bruen, from June 24th, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, the NYPD saw a surge in new gun permit applications from just over 2,000 in the same period a year earlier to nearly 5,000. So far, the department has approved 503 of those, or just above 10%, despite its guidelines and state law requiring applications to be decided upon within 6 months. Now, I have absolutely no idea why it's taking that long. All I can say is this. When is the Supreme Court going to start to exercise some sort of authority when it comes to enforcement? I hate to say this, but I remember when Andrew Jackson, Andrew Jackson, when he was president, I don't remember when he did it, but I remember reading about when he questioned some of the actions of the Supreme Court and said, well, where's their army to enforce their ruling, was basically his comment. And one has to wonder if that's the attitude that you already have a president who's decided that he's going to ignore the Supreme Court when it comes to student loan forgiveness. You've already got a state like California who repeatedly on gun laws has said, yeah, we don't do the Constitution here. You've got cities like New York who, when the Supreme Court says people have a right to carry a firearm, give them their permits, they decide, yeah, we're going to do what we're going to do, and we're not really worried about whether or not you guys get your permits, whether or not you are able to exercise your fundamental right to keep and bear arms. And by the way, they keep in mind, they aren't just approving fewer carry permits, they're approving fewer gun permits. And in New York, you're required to get a permit before you can even buy a firearm. So they're telling even more people like, yeah, no, you don't even have a right to have a gun, right? That right does not exist for you. They've reduced that in all of New York, in all of New York City. It is a travesty what is going on there. And I'm hoping that what we'll start to see now that this data is out is some sort of an injunction, some sort of people going after the city of New York for failing to actually comply with the Bruen decision. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take that, and when they do, if they do not, then those who are refusing to comply need to be held accountable, whether it's removal from office, whether it's being held in contempt of court and being jailed and fined. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it needs to happen. In my never to be humble opinion, I definitely believe that it needs to happen because this situation right now is untenable. If we have an executive, or if the executive branch and the legislative branch refuse to recognize the authority of the judicial branch, then something has to be done. Period. Now, I know that they are like, well, and you have President Biden and some other folks and legal scholars. By the way, a bunch of legal scholars basically, calling them, I'm using a very loose term when I call them scholars. They're people who claim to be people who can educate people about the law. But they sent a letter to Biden telling him that if the Supreme Court comes out against anything that he disagrees with, they hope that he'll just ignore the Supreme Court. I hope they realize that doing that will completely and utterly undermine our entire governmental system. If there is no enforcement of the rule of law, and by the way, that's exactly what the Supreme Court's supposed to be. They're supposed to be the ones that determine and interpret the rule of law. Now, how do they do that? They do that by actually reading the law. And I get it. Democrats don't want them to read the law. They just want them to do what they want. If precedent agrees with them, they want them to follow precedent. If precedent doesn't support them, then they don't want them to. And what's really happening in some of these cases where they're upset about the Supreme Court ignoring precedent meaning decisions made previously, and they're ignoring those, is because in just about all of those cases, they were wrong. They did not make a decision based on the law. They made a decision based on their own personal interpretation of what is right and what is wrong, and they didn't interpret the law. They didn't do it based on the Constitution. They didn't do it based on the law. They just literally decided that they were the Supreme Court, so they're going to right a wrong. That's a wrong in their own eyes. And the current Supreme Court is just, setting the record straight. Anyway. Moving right along, we've got GOP war on college. And this was an interesting piece that I came across here in Axios. And was talking about how Republicans seem to be at war with college. Not just, and in this article, they don't just talk about like our concern with wokeness, but even really about the efficacy or how much sense does it really make to get a college degree. And I'll go ahead and read here. It says, former President Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the two GOP presidential frontrunners, have both promised to crack down on colleges should they occupy the White House, a stark reflection on the right's growing skepticism of higher education. Some Republican complaints about colleges are related to broader concern about wokeness and free speech, but others hint at deeper questions about the value of college and how to ensure a degree comes with an appropriate economic return. In a video posted to his website last week, Trump pledged to fire the radical left accreditors and hire new ones who will impose real standards on colleges. Some of those standards would include protecting free speech, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Last month, DeSantis sued the Biden administration over college accreditation system, alleging it's unconstitutional. Inside Higher Ed reports, students who receive federal aid must attend accredited university. Republicans' confidence in higher education has plummeted over the last few years. A Gallup poll released earlier this month found Americans' confidence in higher education had fallen to 36% compared to 57% in 2015. The sharpest reported drop in confidence was among Republicans. Only 19% of Republicans say they have a great deal or a lot of confidence in higher education, compared to 56% who said the same 8 years ago. Among Democrats, 59 expressed confidence, a 9-point decline from 2015. So keep in mind, this is both Republicans and Democrats are expressing a decline. It says here, and I'll wrap up with this. In 2017, probing the reasons behind low confidence, most frequent answer given by Republicans was that colleges are too liberal or political. Now, I wanted you to note something here, and that was that both Republicans and Democrats have lost confidence in higher education. Now, some of this has to do with kind of the changing missions, right? We've talked before about Paulo Freire, who is the kind of the father of the modern day pedagogy of education, where he believed he was an educator out of Brazil, who basically believed that real education was not reading, writing, and arithmetic, but it was political education, and that teaching people to read, write, and do arithmetic was a waste of time. You have to teach them about how the oppressors are oppressing them so that they can rise up and fight back against these oppressors. That's the real education. And through a dialectical approach, which is basically through conversating with students about the issues of the day and helping them to see this, that they will then become educated and rise up, and you'll catch their interest, and they'll rise up and they'll tear down the reins of oppression that are keeping them from being successful. And what you've created is a bunch of people who are graduating with degrees in Black studies, Latino or Chicano studies, women's studies, queer theory studies, sociology, political science, who don't know how to go out and earn a living. They don't know how to go out and get a job unless they're going to work as a diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. Unless they're going to go in and start teaching companies or telling companies how to be anti-racist, which, by the way, means to be racist against white people and Asians and anyone else who dares to challenge their orthodoxy. Yeah, if you're black and you're doing well, that's because of your proximity to whiteness, and you need to be shut down. Right? No, because you have this stuff in our universities, because you can't even, the place that used to be where you would go and have debates on the great issues of the day, where you could have controversial people from both sides come together and have a conversation, where you could have a Marxist speak one day and have a capitalist speak another day. And you went and you listened and you learned. Even if you didn't agree, you had the opportunity to understand. But that doesn't happen anymore. If you are conservative, you are shut down. You are called a racist. You are told you are not welcome to speak on college campuses. They use the heckler's veto. And at places like Stanford, that's considered okay. That's acceptable. They honor that. Stanford Law School. Right? That's what they want there. And then you wonder why we don't trust them. You wonder why we don't trust a group that, we're realizing more and more that we're having to hire people. We're having to do these visas for people to come in from other countries because our educational system, and by the way, folks, this is war on academia. It's not just a war on colleges. I'll be honest with you, because it goes all the way down into our public schools. All of these places that are refusing to actually educate our kids, they are being called into question. It's not a war on them. It's about, how about you do your job? How about we hold you accountable for doing what you're supposed to do? right? Reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? Teach kids how to think, not what to think. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's your job. And when you start doing that again, maybe, just maybe, we won't have an issue with you. But that's not the case. You and I know that's not the case. You and I know that's not where they are or where they're going to be because their goal, once again, is to overthrow the system. And the worst part is that you've got a lot of these people who are raised up, who have been educated in these cathedrals of imbecility, right? These cathedrals to Marxism. And they don't know any better. Nobody's giving them the red pill. They are blue-pilled to the day that they die. And aren't really interested in considering anything else. Well, folks, maybe it's just time. Maybe it's time that, we didn't continue to send our kids there. We didn't continue to feed our children to these institutions. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. We have to really start to wonder and think. But here's the thing, folks. The other thing is we've got to start to take these institutions back. We've got to do like is happening all over the country, and I'm so happy to see it. It's happened a bunch of times here in California where you have parents rising up and taking back their school boards. They're taking back these institutions, and they're telling, like we had a state superintendent just got kicked out of a school board meeting. Police had to escort him out because as the school board president said, you're the reason why we're doing this. You are trying to pervert our kids. And they're right. And they're right. Now, I don't know if they had to kick him out, but she was right. They are trying to pervert the kids. And it's time that somebody stood up and said so. And I'm so proud to see them, in fact, standing up and doing that. All right. Moving right along, it is now time for our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. Get your Hog Holster, hogholster.com. Make sure you use discount code RUNDOWN, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, speaking of indoctrination, let's take a look. And, by the way, there are various institutions that influence culture, right? Church is one. Government is one. Schools are one, but so is entertainment. And that brings me into our parting shot brought to you. This is from the folks over at the Babylon Bee. I want to show part of this snippet to you because I know that you will find it highly entertaining. But this pretty much will show you how Disney goes about selecting its new projects that it will entertain America with.
Okay, Dreamers of all ages. We got to come up with the next billion-dollar idea. As you know, Strange World, Turning Red, and Lightyear all flopped for some reason. Okay, I don't understand why we're not connecting with the audience. Okay, but whatever the case, we need to come up with something fresh. Okay, so what do you guys got for me?
Well, I've actually got a couple original ideas that I've been working on. If you want to take a look.
What's your original ideas? Okay, who's the chump?
He's the new guy.
Okay, classic new guy. No original ideas. We are going to the Disney Vault to find something that we can remake. And I've got the perfect idea. Aladdin.
Yes, brown people are so in right now.
You already did that. It had Will Smith for some reason.
Okay, what if we remade Cinderella?
You did that too. Twice, I think. One of them had Brandy.
Okay,
She's brown too.
what if Cinderella is non-binary and we call it Cinderella Man?
That's a Ron Howard movie. It won an Oscar.
Okay, fine. What about Lion King?
You did that too.
You didn't let me finish, Hank.
Yeah, Hank. Dummy.
Okay, we remake Lion King. Only this time it's a live-action remake of the upcoming cartoon remake of the live-action of the cartoon. It's a remake.
Oh, it's really.
I love it. Yeah, here's an idea. It's all female cast.
Yes.
Yes! Now we're cooking with zero carbon fuel alternatives. Okay? What else you got?
I love this idea, but I do think that it's lacking in representation. So what if Simba has two dads?
Oh.
Two dads, but I thought it was an all-female remake.
Shut
up,
up,
Hank.
Hank. And, okay, Mufasa has a secret. He's bi.
What if Lightning McQueen makes an appearance? We've got to cross-pollinate the brands. I learned that word in college.
Live-action Lightning McQueen? So is he a CG car with a real person inside, or is he a real car with no person inside? Like, what exactly? Like, where are all the people?
And Simba gets thrown off Pride Rock. It's a pro-choice message.
Pride Rock.
Scar is actually the good guy.
Of course.
Giraffes and wheelchairs.
How would that even work?
Wheelchairs are in wheelchairs!
None of this makes sense.
Rafiki is an old man on an island who has disavowed the ways of the Jedi.
And all the lions can eat bugs to reduce carbon emissions. Hakuna Frittata!
Oh, all the parts are played.
All right, it goes on for a few more minutes. You guys get the point. One, a lot of these companies are not making new content. They're just trying to remake the old content. And not only are they trying to remake it, they're making it worse. They are so caught up in the DEI and the ESG and the CRT that nobody's watching their stuff. There's a reason why Disney is losing billions of dollars. And that's, because of the wokeness. We know this. Okay, so this next one is kind of interesting. You remember Marjorie Taylor Greene decided that during her period of time when she was doing the testimony or was questioning the IRS whistleblowers about their investigation of Hunter Biden, she shared photos from Hunter Biden's laptop, which included the sex scenes, because her point was she was trying to say, look, he flew prostitutes across state lines in order to pay them to engage in sex, which is a violation of the law. But anyway, I think she was just going for the shock value. And Democrats were like, oh my God, they're turning it into a peep show and yada, yada, yada. Well, that then brings me to this one right here. You might remember this is Lord King Joffrey, who, looks like he's choking, but he looks aghast. And it says here, Democrats, when MTG displays pornographic images of Hunter Biden during the IRS hearing. That kind of material belongs in a children's library. I know you don't get it. It's okay. Well, it's because the imagery that was in that thing is almost the same exact as the imagery that you would find in the children's books like Genderqueer that they're trying to force in children's libraries in public school libraries. So that's kind of the point of that one. And then one more Hunter Biden one before we go. This one, when Hunter Biden flies on Air Force One, it becomes Air Snort One. And you know why we included this one. Oh, wait, didn't include that one. Wait, hold on. What was that? There we go. Bam.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
How can you not love Rick James? I still love cocaine is a hell of a drug. Yeah, I'm going to say it every single time. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. But before we go, I want to make sure to remind you, please go to Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. Get rifle and pistol length barrels today. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. Get your hog holster at hogholster.com. Use discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your hog holster today. And finally, get your outdoor gear, cold weather gear, hot weather gear, tactical gear at uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back mañana on Taco Tuesday. Y'all take care.